When we picture ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? We often see golden masks shimmering with an otherworldly light. These iconic images have been etched into our collective consciousness, representing the opulence and mystery of this ancient civilization. Pyramids standing as colossal testaments to human ingenuity and the power of the pharaohs. And Cleopatra, the enigmatic queen whose story has been romanticized and retold countless times. These are the images shaped by movies, often dramatic and larger than life. Hollywood has played a significant role in shaping our perception of ancient Egypt. Museums filled with artifacts that offer glimpses into the daily lives, religious beliefs, and artistic achievements of the ancient Egyptians. And old textbooks, presenting a narrative that has often been filtered through a particular lens. These familiar visions often present Egypt as a world apart, a unique and isolated entity. Disconnected from Africa, its true home, the continent that nurtured its growth and shaped its identity. For generations, a myth persisted, a false narrative that has obscured the truth about Egypt's origins and its place in the world. That Egypt's greatness came from outsiders, from foreign influence, not from the ingenuity and resilience of Africans themselves. This narrative separated Egypt from the rest of the continent, creating an artificial divide that has had lasting consequences, suggesting its achievements were an exception, a deviation from the norm, rather than a natural expression of African civilization. But this is a distortion rooted in colonial-era biases, a product of a time when European powers sought to justify their dominance over Africa. Not historical fact, not a reflection of the complex and interconnected reality of ancient Africa. The real story is one of deep connection, a story of shared heritage, cultural exchange, and mutual influence. Egypt as an African civilization, inextricably linked to the rest of the continent. Shaped by its land and people, by the fertile Nile Valley and the diverse communities that thrived along its banks. The evidence is everywhere, waiting to be uncovered and reinterpreted. In art, vibrant depictions of daily life, religious rituals, and the natural world. Language, a complex system of hieroglyphics that reveals the thoughts, beliefs, and values of the ancient Egyptians. And the very soil of the Nile Valley, the lifeblood of Egypt, providing sustenance and shaping its destiny. To understand Egypt, we must peel away the myths, the layers of misrepresentation and misunderstanding that have accumulated over time, and see it as it truly was, a vibrant and dynamic civilization that made profound contributions to human history. A civilization at the heart of Africa, deeply connected to its roots and its neighbors. Let's begin that journey, a journey of rediscovery and reevaluation, to uncover the true story of ancient Egypt. Egypt's lifeblood, its very reason for being, is the Nile. The river snakes its way through the arid landscape, a vibrant ribbon of life in a sea of sand. It's a river born deep in Africa's heart, a journey that begins thousands of miles away from the pyramids and pharaohs. Its origins are shrouded in the mists of the continent's interior. Its waters flow from the Great Lakes, a vast network of fresh water that acts as a reservoir for the entire region. These lakes are the source of the White Nile, one of the river's main tributaries, and from the Ethiopian highlands, the source of the Blue Nile, a powerful force that contributes the majority of the Nile's water and its fertile sediment. This mighty river is carrying rich silt, a precious gift from the African highlands that made Egyptian civilization not just possible, but inevitable. Without this fertile soil, the desert would have remained barren. The Nile wasn't just a source of water and fertile land, it was a superhighway, a vital artery for trade and communication. It was connecting Egypt to Nubia, its southern neighbor, and to lands far to the south, opening up a world of resources and cultural exchange. The river facilitated the movement of goods, ideas, and people. Egyptians, recognizing the profound influence of the river, called their land Kemet, the Black Land, a testament to the dark, rich soil. This name was given after the fertile soil was left behind by the river's annual African floods, a natural cycle that dictated the rhythm of agricultural life. The floods were not seen as a destructive force, but as a life-giving event. Their entire worldview, their economy, and their very identity were inextricably shaped by this unique geography. The Nile was not just a river, it was the foundation of their civilization. The southern border at Aswan, often perceived as a boundary, was in reality a gateway, not a barrier. Trade, culture, and people moved freely between Egypt and Nubia, fostering a vibrant exchange of ideas and resources. The two regions were deeply interconnected, sharing a common destiny. Pharaohs, driven by ambition and the need for resources, sought gold, ivory, and ebony, precious commodities from Africa's interior, fueling their economy and artistic endeavors. But the flow was not unidirectional. Nubian influence flowed north, shaping Egyptian culture and even its ruling dynasties. Egypt's destiny was always inextricably tied to Africa, a bond forged by geography and sustained by the flow of the Nile. It wasn't just a matter of location, it was the very river that sustained it, providing life, resources, and a connection to the heart of the continent. To attempt to separate Egypt from Africa is to fundamentally misunderstand its very foundation, its origins, and its enduring legacy. The Nile's pulse, its annual flood cycle, set the rhythm of Egyptian life, dictating planting seasons, harvest times, and religious festivals. It was the lifeline that connected Egypt to the continent's heart, both geographically and culturally. Egypt was not an isolated marvel, a civilization that sprung up in a vacuum, but a civilization born of African soil and water, nurtured by the resources and influences of the continent. Its story is inextricably inseparable from the land and the diverse peoples of Africa, a tapestry woven together by shared history and geography. Geography, in its most profound sense, made Egypt African, shaping its identity, its culture, and its destiny. That is the fundamental truth, the undeniable reality, that we must reclaim and embrace to truly understand the legacy of ancient Egypt. Egyptian art is a visual record of its people. Look closely, and Africa is unmistakable. Statues and paintings show full lips, broad noses, and a range of skin tones reflecting the diversity of the Nile Valley. Early pharaohs like Mentuhotep II display features clearly rooted in Africa. The Sphinx's face, too, has sparked debate for its African characteristics. The 25th dynasty, ruled by Nubian kings, celebrated their African heritage in art and monuments. These black pharaohs saw themselves as restorers, not outsiders. Egyptian art used color to distinguish peoples but always placed Egyptians within the African spectrum. Their self-image was African, not Mediterranean or Middle Eastern. The art tells a simple truth: Egypt's rulers and people were part of Africa's tapestry. Their faces, carved in stone, still proclaim it. Language reveals Egypt's African roots as clearly as its art. Ancient Egyptian belongs to the Afro-Asiatic language family, stretching across North and East Africa. Its grammar and vocabulary share deep connections with languages in Ethiopia, Somalia, and the Sahara. Hieroglyphs themselves are filled with African animals and plants: ibis, vulture, papyrus, lotus. The script is a mirror of the Nile Valley's environment. Egyptian was not an imported tongue, but one that evolved from Africa's linguistic landscape. This shared heritage links Egypt to a broader African conversation, long before the pyramids. Farmers along the Nile spoke a language with roots shared by herders and nomads across the continent. The words of the pharaohs were African words. Egypt's language is a living thread in Africa's story. The hieroglyphs speak with an African voice. Egypt's greatness, its enduring legacy, wasn't built in isolation. It was fundamentally built on connections, on a web of interactions that stretched far beyond its immediate borders. These connections were primarily forged with its African neighbors, shaping its culture, economy, and very identity. The influence of these relationships is undeniable when we examine the historical record. Consider the grand expeditions to Punt, a land of legend and riches, most likely located in the Horn of Africa. These voyages were meticulously planned and executed, demonstrating Egypt's ambition and reach. They brought back incense, that perfumed offering to the gods, along with gold, the symbol of power and divinity, and a dazzling array of exotic animals, creatures that captivated the Egyptian imagination. These were treasures essential to Egyptian culture and religion, integral to their rituals, their art, and their very understanding of the cosmos. They were more than just commodities. They were vital components of Egyptian life. These journeys, immortalized on temple walls in vivid detail, serve as a testament to the importance of Punt in the Egyptian worldview. The depictions also show respect for the people of Punt, acknowledging their unique culture and contributions. They are portrayed with distinct African features and homes, offering valuable insights into the lives of those who lived in this distant land. But Egypt's relationship with Nubia, its southern neighbor, was even deeper, more complex, and more enduring. It was a relationship that shaped both civilizations in profound ways. Nubia's gold, abundant and readily accessible, fueled Egypt's wealth, providing the resources for monumental building projects and lavish displays of power. Beyond gold, its people served as elite soldiers in the Egyptian army, fierce warriors renowned for their skill and bravery, and as cultural partners, contributing to the rich tapestry of Egyptian society. Trade and influence flowed both ways, a constant exchange of goods, ideas, and customs. Nubian gods were worshipped in Egypt, integrated into the Egyptian pantheon, reflecting the mutual respect and understanding between the two cultures. And conversely, Egyptian culture profoundly shaped Nubia, influencing its art, architecture, and religious practices. The borderlands were not a stark division, but a vibrant blend, a melting pot of cultures where Egyptian and Nubian traditions intertwined. Egypt's economy and ideology, its very way of life, depended heavily on African resources and relationships, on the constant flow of goods and ideas from the south. The splendor of the pharaohs, the glittering gold and precious jewels that adorned them, was ultimately rooted in African soil and exchange, in the wealth and resources that flowed from the heart of the continent. Egypt's story is not one of isolated grandeur, but one of partnership, of collaboration, and of mutual enrichment. Its golden age, its remarkable achievements, were in essence an African achievement, a testament to the power of connection and exchange. Egypt was not a lone miracle, but part of a wider African tradition. The idea of divine kingship, rulers as living gods, echoes across African civilizations, from Nubia to West Africa. Monumental architecture, like Nubian pyramids and Great Zimbabwe's stone walls, shows a shared impulse to build for eternity. Matrilineal power, ancestor reverence, and animal symbolism connect Egypt to other African societies. These are not mere imitations, but signs of a common heritage. Egypt's influence can be traced in the sacred kingship of Mali and the rituals of Ethiopia. The continent's civilizations sang in harmony, each with its own voice. Egypt was the first but not the only great African kingdom. Its legacy lives on across Africa. New archaeological finds are rewriting Egypt's story. At Nabta Playa in southern Egypt, ancient Africans built stone circles and villages thousands of years before the pharaohs. These early cultures tracked the stars and organized society long before the pyramids. In Sudan, the kingdom of Kerma rivaled Egypt with its own monumental architecture and royal tombs. Nubia was not a passive recipient, but a powerful African civilization. Studies of ancient remains show Egyptians were closely related to other Northeast Africans, not outsiders. The evidence is clear. Egypt's roots are deeply, biologically African. Science is finally confirming what history and art have long shown. Why was Egypt's African identity denied for so long? Colonial-era scholars, shaped by racism, could not accept that Africans built such wonders. They invented the Hamitic hypothesis, claiming Egypt's achievements came from outsiders. Museums and textbooks reinforce this myth, highlighting European features and downplaying African ones. Egyptology was separated from African studies, creating an artificial divide. This narrative justified colonial rule and erased Africa's achievements. Only recently have scholars begun to challenge these biases and restore Egypt's true place in history. The truth is emerging. Egypt was always African. Why does it matter that Egypt was African? Because history shapes identity and justice. Restoring Egypt to Africa's story corrects centuries of erasure and affirms the continent's central role in civilization. It dismantles racist myths and offers pride to people of African descent worldwide. Egypt's achievements, writing, engineering, medicine, are African achievements. Seeing Egypt through an African lens enriches our understanding of its religion, language, and politics. Egypt becomes the vibrant northern anchor of a dynamic continent, not an isolated marvel. This is historical justice, giving credit where it's due and seeing Africa as a cradle of human brilliance. The pyramids, the Sphinx, and Tutankhamun's mask are monuments of African heritage, testaments to a legacy that belongs to us all.